What have we here? Chelsea can play football, and we're going to be talking about it. They've beaten Aston Villa by 3-1 to advance in the FA Cup, and it needs discussing. We've talked about the lows, we've talked about the negatives. It's now time to talk about the positives. Chelsea fans, get yourself a snack, get yourself a drink, because this one needs a discussion. This is why I love football, because you can have all your stats and you can have all your predictions, but in the end, football will find a way to throw something crazy at you. I'm not a Chelsea fan at all, I'd just like to put that out there to begin with. But Chelsea have been absolutely flawless. They've been sensational. Aston Villa are one of the best home teams in the Premier League this season. And Chelsea, well, they're Chelsea. They have conceded 8 goals in the span of 4 days before this. And now they've put up this performance. One of the best first half performances that I've seen from a Chelsea side in years. Years. They were tenacious. They were dynamic. They were tactically set up brilliantly. And we're going to go through that right now because Mauricio Pochettino needs to be given a lot of credit. With the way that he's got his Chelsea side playing and with the way he's got them set up. They were set up in their 4-2-3-1 formation, but generally they were pretty brilliant. I thought Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo were pretty flawless. And then we look at the front three of Nicholas Jackson on the left wing, Cole Palmer as a striker, and Noni Madueke in his normal right wing position. But let's talk about these two for a second. Normally you'd see them swap round, maybe Cole Palmer's over here, but in this particular instance I think Mauricio Pochettino is playing an absolute blinder because of the way that Aston Villa go forwards. The space that's left in behind both Matty Cash and Alex Moreno has really been exploited here, and it's given Chelsea numerous attempts and chances to try and get overloads down the flanks. Ben Chilwell and Malagusto did a very good job of supporting the attack whenever they needed to, depending on what side they're on. And then at the same time, you had Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez backing up to try and make sure they were a good defensive line. They were fantastic, and it's showcased here in the average positions. Now, when we're looking at these average positions, I want you to focus on 2 players. Here's Aston Villa, and I've got Alex Moreno and Matty Cash highlighted here. Look at the space in behind these two. Longley ends up moving over to cover for Alex Moreno, and Boubacar Kamara ends up coming over to Aston Villa's right-hand side to cover for Matty Cash. But in the end, it was severely exploited. I thought that Nicholas Jackson did a brilliant job down this left-hand side to really hammer home the opportunities that Chelsea had against Matty Cash in this game. Noni Madueke had a number of very good duels up against the likes of Alex Moreno, and you can see this in their heat map, driving in field, and that was another big point that I want to notice. We talk about these front three, Cole Palmer, Madueke and Nicholas Jackson. Now what they ended up doing was driving in field. Palmer moved forwards, but they were generally in the width of the penalty area, always looking to go central. And then you've got the overlapping runs from Chilwell, from Gusto, to be able to give them their width. Now this was, and Chelsea fans, please take this in the correct way, this was the most Tottenham-like performance that I've seen from them. And when I mean that, when I say that, I think a lot of people look at Mauricio Pochettino, want them to emulate, or want him to emulate his previous Tottenham team in the way they played, the dynamic, the high pressing, the intensity. This was the closest to that I've seen. With the way the players set up, with the dynamic runs in field, with the overlapping runs, with the width, this was sensational. And one player that I really want to look at is Nicholas Jackson, because Jackson was pretty brilliant. He won 4 out of his 8 ground duels. He got a goal, which we're going to be looking at a little bit later, because that was sensational. And I think there's a player in there. I made a video at the beginning of the season talking about that, but I think there's a player in there. He drives towards the goal. He's very good, very hard working, and I think this Chelsea side were absolutely brilliant. Let's go back and talk about their defensive ailments as well, because we talk about the real poor defensive record that Chelsea currently have, and it's not great, but it was somewhat fixed in this game. We have their back line. The line is held quite low, which is good. They're holding a lower line. Thiago Silva currently isn't in the team. They're not squeezing the pitch as much as they were. They've actually dropped back a little bit more, and I think that really suits them. It encourages Aston Villa onto them because they know Villa are at home and are going to want to go forwards, and then exploiting the space down both of these channels. It was very, very well worked. Badiashile coming in for Thiago Silva, I think, was a very, very good idea because then you got a little bit more pace in the team. Everything about this was brilliant. Everything about this was done almost to perfection. It was a perfect plan from Mauricio Pochettino, and I think he needs to be given a lot of credit. Let's finally finish up by having a look at some of the statistics, because this was just a cracking game for Chelsea. They shared the possession, but I really do think that Aston Villa weren't in this game at all. They had 15 shots, 8 of them on target, and if I scroll down just to show you, Chelsea actually ended up missing 2 out of their 3 big chances, so they could have had more. Aston Villa weren't really in the game for me. I like Villa. I think they've done a very good job, but this was Chelsea's night. It was Chelsea's day. And this is a team that is playing for them. This is a team that is playing for Mauricio Pochettino. And finally, we're starting to see some shoots. Finally, we're starting to see something in this Chelsea side. I didn't think we would before Pochettino ended up getting sacked. But we've finally seen something. There's a bit of hope. And with a bit of hope, there's a way. But is it too late? Is it too late? I'm not sure it is. There's hope. There's hope. Before we end, we're going to be taking a look at a couple of the Chelsea goals to highlight what I've been talking about in this video and give you a little bit more of a visual insight. Here we have Nicholas Jackson on the left-hand side. He's about to receive the ball, but what I want you to see is look at how much space there is for Jackson to run into. He's currently nearly able to go one-on-one with the goalkeeper. Obviously, he's being covered by the Aston Villa defender, but he's been given so much space because of Matty Cash, who is right here. Aston Villa love their right backs and left backs going forwards. It's a way that they gain their width, very much like Chelsea, but it can be exploited. So this is exactly what's happening here. Nicholas Jackson is a better runner than the likes of Cole Palmer. So they put him on the left-hand side to really exploit and run into the space. He's a willing runner and a very, very hard-working player. And I think he needs to be given a lot of credit here. He picks up the ball and then starts driving at his opponent. But Nicholas Jackson here in this image is not what I want you to see. I want you to have a look at the other side and check out Noni Madueke. He's currently screaming for the ball on the edge of the box. But remember what I spoke to you about with Chelsea's narrow forwards, in very much the same vein that the way he set up Tottenham. They had very narrow forwards running into the box, making sure they get into this penalty area, and it's down to these narrow forwards that allow them to get so many players into the box and obviously have a better chance of scoring goals. Noni Madueke actually gets the assist to this, not Nicholas Jackson, and this is because he makes his run towards the penalty area. Cole Palmer's moving as well. Then you've got the likes of Gallagher and Enzo Fernandez to back up. Conor Gallagher scores the goal. So you can start to see where the process is coming from. Nicholas Jackson crosses the ball into the box, and you've already got one arriving, one here arriving. That's nearly 4 players in the box, excluding Nicholas Jackson, but obviously he counts as well. And all of a sudden you've got a number of players ready to take a shot for Chelsea. It's brilliantly worked, brilliantly set up, and then Conor Gallagher gets his goal. Let's go and have a look at the second one, because this, I think, really highlights what Mauricio Pochettino was trying to do with his Chelsea setup, and this time he got it spot on. Right, let's take a look. Out on this right hand side we have Malagusto. We don't have a winger, we have the fullbacks creating massive width for the narrow forwards to be able to play crosses in, to be able to occupy and take the space. And look at Ben Chilwell down on your near side. He's taking the space. Remember the space that is afforded by Matty Cash because the Aston Villa defenders are so close to each other. This is why Villa are able to hold their high line, because they're so close. But there is a weakness. He leaves a lot of space. Leon Bailey is not picking him up well enough. Noni Madueke is currently not a major threat to Aston Villa, but he's also made it behind the Aston Villa midfield line, something that we also discussed. Madueke is going to drive with the ball and then start to create an opportunity. Let's fast forward a little bit more. We have Malagusto about to cross the ball in from this right hand side, creating the width for Chelsea down this right, and then you've got Ben Chilwell at the back post. Attack, attack, attack. Brilliant. And then if I just rewind for a second and show you where Nicholas Jackson is, he is still a left winger in this game. Still a left winger. Be sure to remember that. He's not a second striker, he's a left winger. Cole Palmer is the striker, but he's playing very narrow. And what does this do? This drags Matty Cash inwards and gives them the space to be able to push Ben Chilwell down this left-hand side. Tactics. This is Mauricio Pochettino. We need to be giving him credit for this. Nicholas Jackson is the scorer here, and he's watching Malagusto get the ball to be able to cross it into the box. And what I want to try to highlight to you guys, it's very, very difficult to highlight movement in a still image. Genuinely, it's pretty much impossible, but I'm going to give it a go. We have Nicholas Jackson here, and what I want you to see is his little movement to try and get behind the Aston Villa defender. Look at that. You see that? That right there. That small little movement, and that allows him to get his head on the ball and smash it home. Nicholas Jackson, I thought, was absolutely fantastic in this game, as was nearly every Chelsea player. He was a highlight for me, though, because he's playing out of position. It was a brilliant cross. It was brilliantly worked, and I think he needs to be given a lot of credit, along with Mauricio Pochettino. Should everyone be quiet? Should they? I think Chelsea have a lot of hope here. There's a lot of young players, but they need to be given time. And I'm starting to see some shoots, starting to see something that might resemble an attacking and progressive team. But what I want to know is, what did you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, my friends, take care.